Hello there. Like many of you, I remember the days of President William Jefferson Clinton. And many of you might remember in one of his depositions, he said a statement that really became a joke around the world. He said these words. He said, "It depends on what is." Now, it sounded like he was just playing word games to many of us that don't come from a legal background. But the truth is, Bill Clinton was engaging in a clarification of terms. And as funny as it may have sounded to us, in a court of law, a clarification of terms is so important. For example, you and I cannot come to any kind of agreement. Maybe you're on this side and I'm on this side of the argument, and we've come to reason together. We've come to debate our arguments, because somewhere between both sides, somewhere is the element of truth. Normally, I have found in my life, and especially in all of my studies, I have found that truth normally exists somewhere around the middle. However, if you and I were to debate an issue and we did not understand the terms that we were speaking, it would lead to mass confusion. That's what happened at the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis. Yahweh came down. See right there. Did you hear that word Yahweh? To some of you, that sounds like Greek. Actually, it's Hebrew. But I was about to make a point to you. I was about to make an argument to you, and I used a term that many of you are unfamiliar with. I was unfamiliar with it all of my life, till I come to find out that Yahweh is the personal name of the Creator. Now, in our vocabulary, many of us simply refer to this Creator as God, G-O-D, capital G-O-D. And we know what we mean by that God when we say God. However, in theological debate and in any kind of debate, this is where my argument would lose out with you, because you wouldn't know what I meant by the word God. You think you do. But what if I was talking to a Satanist that believes that Lucifer is God? Well, all of a sudden in his mind, he's thinking of God Lucifer, and I'm thinking of God Yahweh. Yeah, there are many gods in the world. The Bible says there are. However, there's only one Creator God. His name is Yahweh. So if you were to come hear me preach and I was to say that name, I would have to clarify to the congregation what I meant by that term. Now, I'm saying all this to bring us to a point about the United States Constitution. Today, I begin a series with you. I want your children to watch it, your teenagers. I want all of your friends, your family to gather around these 14 series that will be forthcoming throughout the next few weeks. I'm titling this series, Remembering America. Now, why does it sound so past tense, remembering America? Because in these series, I have taken great inspiration from a book written by Paul Hanks, and the book is entitled Federalist Manifesto. This is a political fiction about some time in the distant future. It's a period of time where the great United States of America no longer exist as an entity. Something new has been created in its place. And in these series of lessons, we are going to journey into the future to this new government that's always looking back and remembering the United States of America. Just like many of you that love history, we always tend to look back at Rome. Why? Because a great empire rose and fell. And now we do what they thought would be an impossibility. We stand in the future and remember Rome. In their day, to say the words remembering Rome would be the ultimate fighting words, because Rome was great. But the fact is, every government of man is temporary. Did you know that? Every government of man is temporary. There is a coming government, a one world government that is soon to come, and it will be governed by the King of Kings, Yeshua the Messiah. Oh, let me clarify that term. That's what we know in English as Jesus, the Son of God. He is coming to govern the most perfect government this earth has ever seen for 1,000 years right here on earth. But until that government comes, we are stuck with human government. And to this date, 2021, the month of February, no greater government has ever existed in the annals of history besides the United States of America. Truly, she is the light on the city on a hill. Truly, she is the only nation ever built on ideas rather than people, rather than monarchies, rather than wealth and empire. Rather, this nation was built on basic principles. Principles that are timeless. Many people wonder why the Constitution is still valid 300 years after its creation. Why is it still a document that needs no betterment? It needs no annihilating a sentence here or a sentence there. Because the United States Constitution was given by divine inspiration from Yahweh, the Almighty Creator. Through broken, imperfect men, He created a document that brought forth America first. This document is timeless. Why? Because its principles are timeless. It's just like the Holy Bible, the Word of God. You would think that a book so archaic, written 4,000 years ago, and piecemealed together over the centuries, you would think that that book would be long gone like all other books from antiquity. That it would become an ancient relic of superstition. That it would be done away with. And yet today, it's still the #1 best-selling book in the world without competitor. But why? Why does it still hold value in such a modern age? I'll explain it real simply. Because it never changes in its essence. What is its essence? The Bible is about two entities. You and Yahweh, your God, your Creator, your Heavenly Father. Okay. So if the book is about two characters, you and Him, if its primary purpose is to introduce you to Him and to draw you closer to Him, well, that's a good thing, because you and Him have two things in common. You never change. That's right. Yahweh never changes. He's always good. And men never change. They are always in rebellion to God. That's just the way it goes. So therefore, the stories of obedience and rebellion are timeless principles that carries over from Cain and Abel all the way to where you live today. You'll find these stories in the Bible that have meaning behind them. David and Goliath. There'll always be a David. There'll always be a Goliath. The Constitution is much the same way. Embedded in the Constitution are 14 principles. We have something called a Bill of Rights, and we're not going to go through that in this lesson, but we will in future lessons of this series. But today, before you can understand what makes America great, before you can understand these 14 principles of federalism that Professor Toto is going to teach you, you must first understand the basic, elementary terms that have meaning for our government. Until you understand these terms, and today we're going to talk about two words, left and right. You've all heard it. You hear it all the time in the news and the media and political conjecture, the left and the right. Yet I'm shocked by those that really don't understand what these words mean. Until you get this understanding today, the very basic premise of your doctrine is wrong. So today we're starting here with a definition of terms. Then we will proceed into the more dramatic story called Remembering America. James Madison, one of our great founders, he foresaw that this nation was going to grow beyond expectation. And yet there was this problem that they had to figure out how to govern that many people without a sovereign, without a majority in control. They created the greatest experiment in the history of the world. It's called a constitutional republic or a federalist republic. This is a unique creation. And in this lesson today, we're going to show you what's required to keep that unique creation in balance. Cut. 3, 2, 1. Three, two, one. The Bible says that a false balance, which simply means anything out of balance, is an abomination to God. It's also a destruction to any human government when anything gets out of balance. America is made up and governed from what we call the center. This red line represents the center of our government. It is only possible to govern this many millions of people if you govern from the center. Why? Because this represents a ship. The United States is a ship with a lot of people sailing on the ship. And in any situation, when you get more weight on one side than you do the other, you're looking for a catastrophe. You're looking for a future time when you're remembering something. How does a ship sink? When that tilt goes too far to the left, too far to the right. America can never be governed from the extremes of either side. And this is what you see happening in America as we speak. For my lifetime, I'm 47 years old. I know you can't believe that, but I am. I'm playing. In my lifetime, I have watched this nation governed pretty much from the center. All the presidents, everything I've seen. But let me show you what this means on the left and the right, and let me show you what's happening in our nation today. There's a few words that describe the left. Leftist, left wing. When you hear the word leftist or left wing, you're also going to hear the word liberal. So on the left, it is the liberal side of the ship. It's that side of the ship that governs and has a different idea about how to govern this nation. What is their idea? It's very simple. This triangle represents the way they think. The left side of the American brain is how the left thinks. You could say it's the female side. Not anything derogatory there, but it's normally the female entity that has so much more compassion on the children, that has so much more bleeding heart, if you will. It's normally mama, not always, so don't get offended at me. But you could say the left represents the female persona of the United States. And that's the way it should be in a home. A home should be balanced. You don't want two parents that are exactly the same, or you're going to have a very imbalanced home. This triangle represents the way that they would like to see the nation governed. How? From the top down. To them, the government is smarter than those of us at the bottom. The government is more educated than we are. The government has more modern way of thinking than us deplorables that cling to our guns and our religion. According to them, there is an elite mind that exists in the left. They see us as the lower of the echelon. You don't have to take my word for it. One of their greatest female, not Jezebels, but leaders, Hillary Clinton, made it plain. It slipped. It was a Freudian slip, but it slipped. She called us deplorables, a basket of them. As a matter of fact, this is our basket over here. So they believe that we are at the bottom and that we need to be told how to raise our children. That we need to be told how many guns, if any, that we are able to handle. We should be told how to run our businesses, what to pay our employees, so forth and so on. So that is their form of government from the top down. The word that best describes the left is socialism. And thankfully, people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and others have admitted to you that they indeed are socialist. Now, before I go to the right side of the ship, let me address something. Our nation was never intended to have a two-party system. James Madison said that there would be many factions of our government. Many factions, which means groups or cults or conclaves of people. They all gather together in the same circles. People that think alike, they like to hang out together. People that like the Saints from New Orleans like to hang out with Saints fans. Why? This is the natural way of things. So Madison said as the nation grew, people would move into separate factions of ways of thinking. And that these factions would be forced to work together in this federalist government, this republic, to make the balance come out in the whole. It's a lot like a church that has a board of 12 elders. Some of those elders might think a little more liberal. Some might think a little more conservative, but it's a beautiful thing because at the end of the day, they all bring those thoughts together and they sort of are forced to meet in the middle of the road and therefore govern from the center. Now, when James Madison envisioned these factions, it was never assumed that those factions would fall into a two-party system, Republicans and Democrats. By the way, when we say the left, this applies to the Democrats. When we say the right, this applies to the Republican. However, there are more than two parties in this nation, or two factions. There's actually four, and we're going to talk about all four of them today. But there's a problem. In this nation, you cannot go and start another party that's going to be effective because of the way our system is set up. So in order for you to affect change, in order for you to be effective, you've got to jump in to one of these two pots, one of these two sides, and try to govern with your faction from within these two sections. Let me give you an example. How many of you remember Ross Perot? Now, I loved Mr. Perot. I think I might have voted for him. But Ross Perot was what we would call far right. He was fiscally conservative. He was very structured in finances, and I love that, okay? However, Mr. Ross Perot chose to take his battle outside of the Republican Party and go over and start another party. Very effective, but for the wrong side. Do you know that Bill Clinton only received, I believe, 35% of the American vote when he became president? Why? Because of Ross Perot. Ross decided to get outside of the game, the system, and try to play ball. And even though I don't fault him for it, that's his American right to do so. Yet it cost us and brought liberal bastions to the fore. That's where we start with the Clintonian years, the Barack Obama years. It all came from Ross Perot. So therefore, many of us, even though we feel pulled to go in all these other parties, we understand that we've got to work within this party. Now, here's the only way another party would be effective in this nation. And I'm going to show it to you. On the right, you have what we call federalism, a republic. I'll explain federalism in the next few lessons. These are called rightist, right-wing, or conservative. So there's the two sides of the ship that keeps the center hull in perfect balance. Now, I'm not opposed to two ways of thinking. We need them. For example, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Do you know that Donald Trump was not a true Republican? He was not a true Republican. Why? Because Donald has some liberal ideas as well. There is nothing wrong with liberal ideas so long as they stay in the center. For example, prison reform. That is a liberal idea that I happen to be very much in favor of. But I understand for that to work, I've got to bring it to the center. So Donald Trump jumped in the only system that works in America. And he changed the Republican Party for many decades to come. Now, the people on this side, we have a total different way of thinking about government. Our triangle is right side up. We believe that government should be from the bottom up, not the top down. We believe that the government should come from a federalist form of states, of the people. We the people that are rugged individuals that are able to decide for ourselves how to worship, how to train our children. We don't need an overlord. We don't need any of those things telling us how to live our individual lives. We believe that government should be limited, very small, at the top. And we're going to explain that limited government in our future lessons. And we believe that we the people should have individual liberty and justice for all, and that we should be free from tyrannical lordship. Now, that's perfectly fine. These two are the two sides of the brain. This side would be the male side of the United States of America. Why? Because potentially and traditionally, it's the father of the home that carries that he put the brakes on the liberal children and mama that wants to spend all the money. That, the daddy's working hard every day, watching that money. Well, on this side, we believe in small government. We're fiscally responsible. That's why we can't give away the farm, because the money's not there to pay for the farm. So that's why this side loses elections. Very simple. Because the majority of this nation doesn't like the brakes being put on them. So if you've got two politicians asking for your vote, you've got one over here that says we're going to cut corporate taxes, the one on the right. Well, those on the left, they've got another politician telling them, like Joe Biden did, if you vote for me, you're going to get your $2,000 checks. Well, who do you think they're going to vote for? The one that's talking about cutting corporate taxes. But they don't understand. The one talking about cutting corporate taxes is truly loving them more than that little $2,000 check they're getting. But they don't understand that. They're not educated fiscally. In the United States, at one time, only landowners could vote in this nation. Do you know why? They were the only ones that understood property taxes, how things work, how money works. So we've now come to a very uneducated electoral base, and they are becoming the majority. But thank God for the Constitution and the Electoral College. It gives the right side of the brain some equilibrium to not lose out to the majority. If you want to know more about what I just said, watch my video on this YouTube channel called America 101, and it will explain what I was talking about on that conjecture. All right, so these work perfectly together. But let me show you what's happened. You have the left, but now we have another party in America. It's called the far left, or the extreme left, or the lunical left, the lunatics, okay? Now, I say that because I'm going to say the same thing when I get on the other side. So these people think that the Democrats are sellouts. They have a utopian dream, not of more government. No. They want total government control. They think the Democrats are sellouts. They want totalitarianism, where the government is in total sweeping control of health care. Everything in the country goes to the top all the way. And that's what they want. That's your AOCs and your squads and your them people. Okay? Total control. Now, here's what happens. These people refuse to break away from the Democratic Party. They know they have to work within this party to affect governmental change. So that's why this party is starting to lean more and more this way, because these people are loud. Liberals are loud. Conservatives are not. We're too busy working and providing for our families and not living off of checks. So we don't have time to get loud and go sit down in the city square burning buildings down for 2 weeks. We don't have time for that, okay? So therefore, this center of the ship, watch carefully, is beginning to tilt. See? Now here's what happens when that happens. Then it is the natural inclination of the right to create their far right party. Now this far right party, you could call us the Tea Party, the Patriots, the MAGA Party, whatever. These people think that the Republicans are sellouts, and they are. So in our frustration, we have to run to the other side of the Republican Party, but the reason we have to do it is because these people are leaning the ship so far to the left that we can't govern from the center anymore. Now this is what's happening in America. Pay attention to me. So therefore this side, what they should do is break away from the Democratic Party and start their own lunatic party, okay, over on the left. Then you and I would be able to break away from the Republican Party and start our party, which would balance out the whole. Do you see what I'm saying? And therefore we would have a chance to win elections, because you would fragment these two parties, then you would have 4. But until such a time, we're forced to stay in here. Let's go look at the far right. Now, they believe in absolutely no government whatsoever. I mean, just wild anarchy. In other words, whereas the Republicans believe in limited government, those on the far right believe in absolutely pretty much no government, every man for himself. That turns into anarchy, okay? That's why I was so against the violence on January the 6th at the state capitol, because we are not anarchists. We cannot go that far to the right, to where we match up with the far left. We must come back to federalism. We must come back to the center. However, when these people from the lunatic party are allowed to come in and pull the Democratic Party that way, and the ship that we're all sailing on, they force us to the far right to balance this thing back. So what you're seeing happening now needs to happen. I'm telling you, going to the far right, becoming loud like them, they're forcing us to do it. When we look at AOC with what she did to the house, and we're saying, hey, where's our AOCs? Come on, we need help. This is where our loud candidates come from. So for all of you people over here that's worried about the far right, fix your problems and we'll be back, okay? Govern with limited government from a federalist idea from the bottom up, and we will be back in our party. Now, we're still there. We can't go nowhere. You know that. You've got us. But I promise you, we're going to get so loud, and we're going to do just what they're doing. We're going to get over here until you start centering that center back up. Why was it important for you to learn this lesson today? You need to decide if you're on the left or the right, the far left or the far right. I want to encourage you not to get caught up in the emotions of the moment. This nation only floats from the center. Joe Biden made a tragic mistake whenever he got his... I have to be careful. When they put him in the Oval Office, he signed 40-something executive orders that did what? It didn't meet anybody in the middle. It set the power over here. It sent it way over here. That ship is leaning. We are being called in this day and in this hour to take our nation back to where it started. Where did this nation start? Federalism. I'm going to teach you all about federalism in the next few videos under this series called Remembering America. Before you go today, did we earn your subscription? We would love for you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you all for the gifts, the donations, and the love offerings that you have sent to our local church. Thank you. If you want to follow me on all of our social media channels, look in the description box and you'll see where to find us. Has this been a blessing to you? Why don't you share it? Thank you. Have a good day.